Welcome to the Pastured Pig Podcast, where we share the successes and challenges of raising pigs on pasture. We talk to producers all over the country, from small homesteads to large commercial pasture operations. Whether you're new to pastured pigs or have been raising hogs for decades, we hope you hear new ideas and new perspectives on pasturing hogs. Here's your host, Troy McClung.
Hello everyone, this is Troy. I hope everyone is having a great New Year's, that so far 2020 has been profitable or successful, or at least you haven't screwed stuff totally in the ground. The year's just begun, right? Well, all right. Well, a couple updates before we get into our guest interview. Obviously, starting the new year, we've actually rotated out our pigs as we speak right now. I have only one pig on farm, and that was simply because she would not get in the trailer. So I believe we're going to process her on farm. Gotten a lot of good feedback from y'all. I think what we're going to do in an episode coming up soon, I'm going to kind of interview myself, and it won't be as cheesy as actually asking questions and then turn around and answering them, but I'll kind of go through the same pick list that I go through of questions for my guests, kind of answer those to get people up to speed. I have had a lot of questions as to what's going on, though not everybody watches the YouTube channel, so I thought I'd do that, kind of summarize where we are, because I'm excited to talk about what we've got coming as far as new pigs go. We've been working with David Crafton. You guys have heard him on the podcast before, and we're going to get a breeding set from him as well as some growers to finish out so we can have some product this year. So we'll update that and detail that, do some backstory there as well. So look forward to that coming up. Hopefully that'll be as at least be as entertaining as our guests have been. We'll see. I'm going to jump right into our interview, and then on the backside, we'll talk about some specifics as well. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pastured Pig Podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Troy. If my voice sounds a little different, it's because it is that time of year, and I've got a pretty good head cold, so I'm going to try to keep the coughing and hacking to a minimum and let our guests speak. Tonight we have with us on the podcast Stephen Smith with Iron Bell Acres, and he's in Greensboro, just outside of Greensboro, North Carolina. So welcome, Stephen. How are you tonight?
Good. How are you doing, Troy? Thanks for having me on.
Hey, no problem, man. Doing well. Like I said, other than producing more byproduct than the alien in the movie Aliens, I'm doing all right.
Oh, yeah, I understand that.
Like I said, I'll try to keep from hacking and coughing in the mic here. All right,
No
so North Carolina, so you guys have been swimming a little bit like we have, haven't you?
Yeah, we've been getting quite a bit of rain the last few weeks. We started off fairly dry, at least I guess, in compared to the monsooning that everybody on the East Coast had last year. But in the last, I think, 7 days, I think we've had somewhere close to 6 inches of rain, I think. With a couple inches here in the last couple of days, and so things have been pretty wet and muddy.
Yeah, have you guys had an unseasonably warm winter like we have?
Oh man, yeah, it was 70 degrees today, and I think 69 yesterday. But then 2 or 3 days before that, it was down below freezing. So it's been a roller coaster for sure.
Yeah, it has. It's been interesting. The farm is definitely liquefied right now between the freeze and thaw, and then of course all the rain. Okay, well, so tell us a little bit about Iron Bell Acres. Give me the 40,000-foot elevation, your layout, your farm, what you got going on there.
Okay, so about 7 years ago now, my wife and I, after we got married, I had already bought some family land here, a little over 5 acres, and we built on what was an old tobacco field. And tobacco field, when the local farmer, kind of sold out of his stock, then turned over into, soybean, corn, those types of things. So it was basically a wide open field, but it was actually part of our family land. We were on about 80 acres of family land, joined together with my mom's side of the family. And it was always traditionally used as a tobacco farm. My great-grandfather was the one that kind of originated and started that. The land belonged to him. And then continuing along, I guess kind of like most people, I guess we when I was a young kid to older teenager, we started with chickens. I guess everybody says is the gateway
Right.
animal. And so we started with them, and 6 chicks from the local Tractor Supply turned into a couple hundred at one time, and then we kind of just actually transitioned on through multiple different animals, some exotic stuff, different things, and always just kind of piddling and tinkering with stuff. Always just enjoyed animals, raising animals, reading and learning about them. And so then it was actually about 6 years ago that we actually got into pigs for the first time. I had always been real hesitant growing up of having pigs here on our little farm and messing with. Had always just heard rumors and about the mess and the stink and all the different things that came with pigs and keeping them fed and keeping them contained in fences. And but then we kind of just started a little bit more reading and things and getting into wanting to grow more of our own food, and still looking for kind of that niche of something here on the farm that could actually and not just be a hobby, but potentially get a little bit of money from. And so that's kind of how that started. And so we started our first winter actually, of just growing a couple of pigs, I guess old school dirt lot, feeding the slop to them and, pig feed and that kind of thing. And then got the meat back, and it was great. But we realized that it still wasn't really quite what we wanted, and continued my research and reading and everything. And so then the next year is then when we actually started rolling into pasture, or pasture raising pigs, and haven't looked back, I guess, since then. And we currently are kind of in the transition phase a little bit. And I don't know if transition doesn't really mean we have a necessarily plan. We have traditionally raised kind of an assortment of breeds of everything from the Coonies up to the Berkshires, Yorkshires, Durocs. And right now what we have is kind of a hodgepodge. So we have some Idaho pasture pigs, which I know saying that word kind of turns some people the wrong way, because some people don't really consider them a breed. But they've been a good pick for us. And anyway, so we have them, and still a couple of different mixed Yorkshire crosses that we're growing out for pork. And then we're actually in the process of transitioning over to the American guinea hogs. So we've kind of got a little hodgepodge right now for, I guess, having them for various reasons, and have about 25 pigs or so right now, and including all sizes and ages. And some are our breeders, and then some are, of course, growing out for pork. And then we process several times a year, and then sell mostly sausage, and then some retail cuts. And then we're starting to get a little bit more into selling the whole hogs and getting people interested in that.
All right. Yeah. So, so let's back up a little bit and cover some of those details there. That's a lot of ground to cover. So, why are you transitioning to the guinea hog? What out of everything that you've raised, why that direction?
I think the guinea hog is wanting to offer a little bit more of a challenge, maybe. I think part of me has gotten. I know the guinea hogs are not going to be my full pork production pigs. There's not going to be enough of a market. I mean, I already know that. But I think I got interested in them because of after doing some more research and reading and things through the Livestock Conservancy, and then wanting to focus on, at least in part, of being able to raise more of a heritage breed, and to be able to work with the process of, registering the pigs, registering the best at least, and kind of helping maybe grow those numbers. The guinea hog kind of fit that bill out of the different breeds that are on the Livestock Conservancy list, just because they were more readily available in my area. Still not the easiest to track down, but far easier than some of the other breeds that were on there. And kind of wanted something. I told somebody recently that they kind of asked me the same thing, and kind of wanted to, I guess, save the guinea hog for a quote unquote rainy day. If we ever decided to fully get out of the, a little bit larger and medium breed pigs, But we wanted to kind of keep something around just to even, process and slaughter ourselves without even taking to a, processing plant. The guinea hog would be something that would kind of fit that bill and a little bit more easier to manage in the long run.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're still going to keep other breeds on, or are you going to be solely AGH at some point?
I think, yeah, we're still going to keep some other breeds on, and that's kind of where part of that transition is not fully set in stone. We have had the Idaho pasture pigs now going on our third year, and so far they have probably been our favorite breed or mix. Be careful with that word breed, but anyway, they have probably been our favorite so far just because of the size. We like the kind of medium-sized, pig. They are a little bit slower in growth, but definitely faster growing, at least in our experience, than of course the AGH or the Kune. Still achieve good weight, and they've been really easy on pasture, really easy to manage, and we've actually found, at least again with the ones we have, a little bit more consistency as far as pigs that have been able to get for our area. Right now, I'd mentioned that we still have a couple of cross pigs. We have actually been able to, I guess you want to say, partner slash, kind of get some assistance from one of the local colleges, A&T State University. They have a good farm program and a lot of ag stuff going on there. And we've actually been able to purchase pigs through them fairly regular for the last 2 years. And that's kind of where some of our, Burke, York, Duroc, and various Tamworth crosses and things like that have come from. And that was kind of the reason I guess we started doing some of those, is to help just fill the extra gap. We started with the Idaho pasture pigs, and we started with 4 gilts. And after we originally had a boar and, bred and had litters. And so what we ended up doing was we kept the 2 better ones, ones that fared the easiest, had the biggest litters, and just were all around the, I guess, better pig. But the thing with that was then is we're, one of the only people around that has these Idaho pasture pigs. And so a lot of times we didn't end up kind of shooting ourselves in the foot a little bit, because we would, we'd had so many people interested in piglets that we would, end up selling too many, and then we would have some for pork. And then while all this is going on, about a little over 2 years ago, that's when pork sales really picked up. And so then we were, selling out of sausage and retail cuts really fast.
Right.
And so we had to be able to find some more pigs to be able to help fill that gap.
Yeah, it seems to be the way it goes, that you get onto something, and then the scalability becomes an issue when it really hits the way you hope it does.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So you had mentioned, obviously, I think you kind of answered the question I had next to my head, but you had mentioned having breeders on. So you had a boar for the Idaho pastured pigs, but you're also getting some feeders from the local college and some other sources. So right now you kind of have an eclectic variety of breeds that you're just still kind of figuring out and putting, like you said, putting your transition game plan together. It sounds like.
Yeah, we do, and I think we're going to slow back kind of off of getting pigs from the local university. Just because there was a little bit more inconsistency there as far as with the breeds we were getting, and then the quality and traits that they were then using to transition, or not using, but transitioning with onto pasture. And a lot more, with the pigs, we would get some that would fall right in line with the pigs that we had, as far as our guinea hogs and our pasture pigs, and not testing the fences and doing well on pasture and not tearing everything up. And then you would get, all of a sudden, we'd get this batch of 6 to 8, feeders, and they would absolutely just moon crater the whole place if you let them. And meat quality was a little inconsistent sometimes more with them, whereas we were sticking with our other breeds, you kind of knew what to expect. And then with some of the crosses, we didn't quite know. So I think we're really kind of slowing down off of those a little bit. And
yeah.
Hopefully, not sure if we're going to stick with the pasture pigs. We've actually had sold our breeding boar just a few weeks ago, actually. So not going to have any more full-blooded of those. But so we're not sure where the other direction or that other half. We know we're going to work with the guinea hogs a little bit. It's kind of a little bit of a hobby, more so or less with helping the breed. But as far as our other half, we're still up in the air.
Interesting. Well, good. So looking at that, then, so the AGH you would end up finding a bore for, or you already have found one.
Yeah, we do. We found one. We bought a couple of registered gilts, not too far, about an hour away or so. And then we actually found a registered boar kind of in another northern direction up towards the Virginia North Carolina line. And so we do have those. And then we to go along with that, just for to grow out as feeders, we bought some unregistered stock as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, you'd mentioned that the family property that you're on was at one point tobacco and some other monocrops. So how did you find the quality of the pastures? Have you had to do much amendment? I know tobacco, especially at least in our area, is kind of tough on ground after a while. So did you have any challenges there?
Yeah, it was. Oh God, it was terrible for the first about 4 years or so. We kind of lucked out when I purchased the property from an uncle who was actually leasing it still for farming at that time. But when I purchased it for a piece of land from him, we actually kind of lucked out. I can remember still, like I said, about a little over 5 years, almost 6 years ago. We worked it out with a local farmer. Told him it was going to be the last time they were going to be able to lease it. And so we had a good rain come in, and the farmer that was actually tilted up for winter wheat, and had already got the seed spread out, we were actually able to come in right behind them and go ahead and put some fescue and clover in. And so, fortunately, they were actually still able to get a cutting of the wheat off, but it left a lot of the fescue and clover then underneath. And so that kind of gave us a little bit of a start. But yeah, it was a constant battle for the first couple of years, and weed problems. And then, you would have a good, excellent, awesome quality pasture for about a month in the spring, about May. And then after that, it was just absolutely terrible. And then a lot of that too was just us having to be able to learn about actual pasture management and the restoration. And I think now, here a few years later, with more experience, and it's been a much easier to manage now. For the last about year and a half, we haven't actually been using any chemicals on it, other than the one piece we're still working on. The weeds kind of really just got too much ahead in those areas, unedible weeds, I should say. And so we're still working a little bit with that spot for our spraying, but remaining areas we've been able to keep a really good quality with. And a lot of that, I think, has been too with us, managing it better, resting it more in the winter time. And then when we have wet spells like we have right now, I think I told you before we came on, like some people say, we're growing mud more than we are other animals. And it's so when it gets real wet, we're able to put them up and pigs up in sacrifice areas, and we have various other animals and things that run through with the pigs too. So it's definitely been more of a juggling and balancing act for getting the pasture in better quality. But I think we're finally starting to get there.
Yeah, excellent. Sounds good. So in that setup, then, are you being able? I know you said you've got a sacrificial area this time of year. Do you in your peak season, your best growing season? Are you able to do some rotation? Do you have your pasture broken up into paddocks?
Yeah, so it is broken up into paddocks. We have about 4 main areas of pasture. So there's about 2 acres of pasture that we have broken up into 4 paddocks. From the smallest one, we call it kind of the nursery areas, where we like to move the pigs in the spring, especially with the with piglets after they farrowed. That's only about a 1/4 acre, and then the largest section is about 3/4 of an acre. And so we rotate the pigs through those different areas. We don't really do like a regular, I'm going to rotate every so many days. Usually we've been able to keep that consistent enough that we can actually let them be on the whole area for a more extended period of time. I know on like that 3/4 acres, paddock, usually we run anywhere between about 15 and 20 various sizes. We can keep them out there for a pretty extended period of time. And then we're very fortunate we connect up to, of course, like I said, family land. And so there's about 5 to 6 acres of woodland area that we have that connects to our property. And so we get to use that as well. It's a really big help to us, especially this time of year. Of course, it's very wet down in there too, but it also a lot more foraging for the pigs, and the acre crop was just really good out there this year. There's a lot of hardwood, oak, and hickory, so that provides a lot of foraging and grazing opportunity for the pigs. And it helps too because it's, like I said, we're right out in the middle of what used to be a tobacco field. So we had, no trees on the 5 acres other than what bordered our property. So that wooded area really offers good, cool shade in the winter time, and actually connects up to a neighbor's pond that actually comes through his fence line. And so our pigs are able to drink from that in the summer. And so it really offers a lot of benefit to us.
Yeah, no doubt. That's a nice benefit to have your real access water there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about your feeding. What are you supplementing? Obviously, with good pasture and it sounds like a little bit of woodlot forage. What are you doing for primary feed?
So we do a 14% pig grower. We get that from a local co-op, Southern States. We consistently feed that as a ration. And then this time of year, which, again, it really hasn't gotten that cool really yet, but we actually supplement too with soaked and fermented corn. So those are kind of the 2 extra main supplementations. And that's really about all we do these days. We've gone through trial and error of going to local produce stands and getting extras, and in the spring and summer, and we've done we'll show up at the pumpkin patch and ask for all the pumpkins and different things, but there's about 2 times a year, usually early fall, that we do have a local orchard that we are able to get some peaches and apples from. But for the most part, we pretty much try to be consistent with just supplementing with the pig grower. And then, like I said, this time of year, we feed a little bit of the fermented soaked corn. And that's usually more just to our breeders. We don't feed a lot of the fermented or soaked corn to our grow outs or to the ones we use as pork. Mm-hmm. Just because we keep them separate this time of year too.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned you had a lot of variety in age. Do you try to get to where you have X amount of processing days a year on the calendar, or you just kind of arbitrarily go out and grab who looks to be the right size when the time comes?
Yeah. So this time of now for the last year and a half, when, like I said, we got our meat handlers license for North Carolina about a little over a year and a half ago. And when we started selling it, other than we were just using it for personal use and family before that. But we try to have the litters twice a year, or have been, with our pasture pigs, and a couple of different crosses that we've had. And then, keep a few. We've kept a few of each of those litters. And then, like I said, we're supplementing with also buying, pigs from local university, from their farm, so that we can constantly have a, revolving door. I think I told you we have kind of shot ourselves in the foot because we've actually, sold too much pork. And so it's like, then we run out, and then we don't even have enough for, family use almost. Or we actually have to start going into the family stores, I guess if you want to call it,
right, yeah.
to be able to actually sell some. It's like, you got this customer that's repeat, and they're like, man, Steven, I really need this for a meal or family get together coming up. Can you hook me up? And it's like, oh, okay. But then, and then it's funny. My dad and I are actually kind of in everything together. And oh man, he gives me a hard time all the time, because what we do is, when we process pigs, we have X amount that goes into our, USDA inspected freezer that we sell, and then X amount goes into our personal freezers, at my house and my folks' house. And I, normally I go over to my folks' house and I take stuff out of theirs if I need to sell some before I take it out of mine. So, my dad gives me a hard time about that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a good friend. A couple years ago, he calls me and said, "Man, I need more bacon." I was like, I'm sold out of bacon. He's like, "You're telling me you don't have any bacon?" I'm like, "Well, I don't have any bacon to sell. I've got bacon." I said, "But it's personal use, and I don't go out in the middle of the wintertime in knee-deep mud not to have bacon anytime I want to." He was giving me a hard time. He's like, "I can't believe you won't sell me any of your private stash bacon." I was like, "Well, there's a certain line you just can't cross."
Oh no, yeah, the bacon's right on up there. I can part, maybe a pack or two of pork chops with you, but
Right. Yeah.
the bacon and for me, my favorite, my shoulder steak. So that's usually one I'm not too willing to part with very easily. Like I say,
Exactly.
especially if I'm supposed to be, technically sold out. But
Yeah. That's what I told him. I said, "You're just not good enough a friend to do that." So, yeah, all right. So let's talk about some of your sales a little bit. So you said just up until about last year you were raising enough for personal consumption. What tipped you over into the sales arena? What made you stick your toe in that water?
yeah, I just love talking with folks about the pigs and animals and stuff here on a little farm and just growing out and I think that's what really started it was just talking to friends and even some family and coworkers and just having conversations about kind of what we were doing because again most people I feel like especially and it might be I'm sure it's like that everywhere but here central North Carolina here in the southeast old timers, I guess if you want to call it, everybody back in the day, would have pig, and everybody, slot fed pig and corn fed pigs, and down here, I don't know if you guys have this brand up there or what your local one is, but we have this, one particular company that sells in a lot of the grocery stores, and
Mm.
they're technically considered a local company, but they are, a commercial operation, and
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody kind of wants to compare, your product and your sausage to them, and
Hmm.
so I think just the initial conversations, I guess, is what originally started wanting to sell, and then realizing that I liked it. I like talking with people and interacting with them about it, and it just kind of really took off by word of mouth from there. I mean, I think sausage really continues to be our biggest seller, and we just had Christmas a few weeks ago, and everybody wants to stock up on sausage for the holidays and having family in town, and so it's just kind of where word of mouth has really kind of took it off too. That and our Facebook page, getting a lot more attention and people interested in what we're doing.
Yeah, and that was what was going to be my next question. So, word of mouth, obviously, people that listen and the people that are talked to on the podcast, always these different processes they do for marketing and getting their sales out. So, word of mouth, of course, is that start. And then you touched upon the next one. So, your social media. So, what strategy do you have when it comes to social media to try to get sales generated, to get interest going?
So I guess a lot of it has been more of I guess maybe the homestead side of it. On our page, a lot we post a lot of recipes and meals and things that we make out of our pasture pigs and our chickens, poultry that we do. But that poultry is just for personal use. We don't sell that. It's just getting people interested in it like that. And then I think really, I mean, I just a quick Google search kind of you can look up ideas on how to kind of share your social media presence for a small business and that kind of thing. And I think I did a little bit of that months ago now, and we were able to do some little giveaways or like a drawing to be able to kind of attract people to the page. And I mean, we grew from just about 100 followers on. I think we're pushing about 800 or so now, and we've really only been consistent using the page now for about a year, maybe a smidge longer. So we've grown pretty good like that. I found that with social media, I guess like kind of like all of us, you kind of get invited to a page by a friend, and you're like, oh well, I like you, I'll support your business, or I'll support your your cousin's business. So a lot of times, I think people just kind of click on something and
Right.
not really realizing kind of what they clicked on. So I think then I guess it's kind of the responsibility, or I guess it's decent marketing to kind of keep people interested and kind of keep your stuff popping up on their news feed. And so that's kind of been a big thing for us. And not everybody wants to buy pork or sausage, but a lot of folks are interested in various things that we do. And over time, I mean, I've had some people that liked our page in the beginning, a year ago, that may be local and may not really know personally, but here we are a year later, and I've got still new people all the time contacting me wanting to get put on my waiting list or pre-sold list for sausage and other retail cuts.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a good point, that the consistency on social media and just kind of developing that trust as people see you say, okay, yeah, this, you're not sure I know anything about Steve, and then, oh, okay, so yeah, he's social media. They've always got stuff going on, very family oriented, a lot of farm activities, those type of stuff, and it, you just build a trust to say, I think I can trust the product that he produces.
Yeah, and it's yeah, and that's, I mean, and it helps a lot too with, like I told you, when we talked earlier, that I'm a fourth grade teacher, and so I have always, I mean, I'm in my ninth year of teaching now. We've always, even before we had pigs, I mean, we'll always have done little petting zoos and at spring flings and fall festivals and things like that for school. And so, when parents and kids and stuff are kind of, seeing what I do on the side, people get so interested in that, and especially the kids and students I teach. And we, and then too, this past summer, we actually had a couple of homeschool groups come out. I have a friend of mine who is a part of the local homeschool, I guess, co-op, I think is what they call it, wanted to, just bring some people over. And I know kind of first at the idea, I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know what I would say or, what I would really do with them. I mean, we're not the postcard farm,
Right.
I guess, for describe it. We'll have this big magnificent barn and or anything, but you said, oh no, you'll be fine. So we had like, I think 30 kids and about that many adults come on one particular day, and I mean, and that generated a lot of interest for us and in social media and some pork sales and things like that. So we've been able to, kind of really get our name out there pretty quick.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, I think anytime, it's a real pain in the neck, but anytime you can manage an on-farm visit and let people see and just interact, then I think that's always going to produce good results. As long as your farm's up to par and nobody gets hurt or you don't slaughter an
Oh
animal
yeah,
in front of them. So,
absolutely, yeah.
yeah, well, great. Well, Stephen, looking at goals in the future, in the next 5 years, what do you see for Iron Bill Acre Farms? What do you think you're going to be doing there?
Well, I think at least this year, at least until the fall, I think, like I told you, we're kind of in an odd transition phase with kind of figuring out kind of what we want to do as far as breed of pig. So I think we're kind of slowing down just a smidge. Which is going to be hard because we've really ramped it up in the last year, especially. And we actually just only pre-sold several pigs for whole pigs, and actually got a new thing where we're actually going to be, we kind of pre-sold the pigs or piglets, and then we're actually going to, be boarding them basically for a monthly fee. Something a little different we're trying. So we're kind of doing that, but we're probably going to slow down a little bit on the retail cuts. Long term, I would like to, it is a part-time thing now. And I get probably keep it a part-time, but I would like to, maybe ramp it up a little bit with, more processing dates. And, I tell my wife my goal is to be able to have a nice little, just kind of, small building out, at the entrance of our driveway where our sign and our iron belly is, and be able to, put multiple freezers in there and just kind of have a nice little farm store and, partner with a couple other local folks that do different, goods and produce and things throughout the year. And, just kind of continue just working with the community. I don't think short term or long term we want to, become too big. I think we could potentially if we wanted to, but, I like working with kids and kind of what I do for my full-time thing. So we'll just kind of continue working with the community and kind of sharing what we're about, and, showing people that, raising animals on pasture and outdoors is, the best way to be able to do it.
Yeah. So do you see yourself, 5-10 years down the road? Do you see where you become a full-time farmer and you drop down to maybe a substitute teacher and just do that off and on so you can stay on the farm?
Yeah, I don't know. I think about it often. I can't never really quite tell myself that, okay, yeah, this is kind of how I want to do it. I've kind of, tossed around different various ideas of how I could do things. I mean, I guess a couple ideas in mind is, one I thought about doing. I have a lot of interest in cooking and things like that as well, and using our own product and in different ways. And so, I don't know, somehow maybe tossing that around as an idea of something I could do in the future, as far as even like a food truck or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
With our, on farm product plus, some other local things as well. And then, I tell my wife all the time, there's a little pharmacy that local pharmacy that recently closed down, and I tell her all the time, I'm gonna buy that place and turn it into a FARM, pharmacy,
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
buy a local product and resell. And I don't know, it's everything's still kind of up in the air. We have a 2-year-old at home now, and we're really enjoying her and spending time with her and things. And so I guess the consistency of my public education job is kind of hard to leave. And
Right. Yeah. Nice having those
so it's
summers off, isn't it?
oh yeah, absolutely. It definitely allows more time for hobby and doing stuff, and doing different things around here and traveling some too. So
All right. Very good. Well, in our closing question, I normally ask everyone, Stephen, I'll hit you with the same thing here. What is your best experience or favorite parts about raising pigs on pasture?
mm, Troy, I hear you ask this question every week, and I thought I would have an answer prepared. And it's hard to pick. I think the biggest thing is just being able to enjoy the fruits of your labor, and just being able to enjoy the product and things that come with them. I have people, co-workers especially, it seems like, ask all the time, how could you eat your own animal and thing you raised? And I think I really have kind of stuck by that, and really 100% feel that saying that, I guess, I don't know if he coined it or started it, but Joel Salatin says about the animals have the best life you can possibly give them, just one bad day.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
I think that is really been what we've kind of held to, and just really respect that what the animal is a part of God's creation, is providing me and my family, and it offers up opportunities to be able to talk to folks about it as well.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I guess that'd have to be it.
Great. Awesome. Good answer. I like that. All right. Well, Stephen, if people want to learn more about your farm, I think you kind of touched upon that, but if you would give us some details of where they can find out more about you.
Okay, yeah. So right now we don't have a website. It's just pretty much everything is through Facebook, is our only social media presence. And usually the easiest way to find us is to type in the @ symbol and then Iron Bell Acres, one word. That usually pops our farm page up the quickest. If you just type in Iron Bell Acres, I know I've had folks tell me that you get some Iron Bell other things, various social media stuff.
Right.
But anyway, so yeah, it's Iron Bell Acres is our farm name, and that's how you can track us down on Facebook.
Excellent. All right. Well, man, I pray that things dry out for you, as we're hoping they do here as well, and hope you have a good beginning of the year.
Or you as well, and Troy, I appreciate you having me on, Troy. I appreciate it.
All right. Good talking to you. All right. Well, I appreciate Stephen taking the time to talk. Enjoyed that conversation there that we had. Be sure to check out his links that he provided, and we'll have those down in the show notes, of course. Before we wrap up, I need to apologize to people. I always do my call to action to say, hey, go to our website, redtoolhouse.com, click on the Pastured Pig Podcast link. You'll see a little form, a couple simple questions. You can fill that out, and that way I can follow up with you about getting you on the podcast. Well, I realized, and I don't know, quite honestly, I don't know how long that form has been inactive. It acts like it's working, but it just goes into the abyss. So some of you all have completed that form and probably are thinking, well, that dirtbag hasn't called me or had reached out to me. He must not want to talk to me. That is not true. And I apologize if you all have filled out that form and you have not heard from me and you would like to be on the podcast, or you'd like to suggest somebody or topics. If you wouldn't mind, please go back and do that again. I do have the form fixed, and I have some double redundancies in place there. So I apologize, but if you go fill out that form, then I can get that information now, and we'll get you scheduled to be on the podcast. I'd really like to get a robust schedule into 2020 of people that have yet to be on, or people that have been on already and want to have specific topics. So just let me know through that form, if you would, please. Well, I pray everyone has a great week and you get to spend some quality time out in the pasture with your pigs. Okay, take care.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Pastured Pig Podcast. To learn more about our podcast, or to submit topics or recommend guests for future episodes, visit redtoolhouse.com.